Cyberpunk Edgerunners is good. It's very good. In fact, I think the best way to communicate to you just how good I think this show was is to say that now that I watched it, I miss it. That's a feeling I haven't had in a very long time for a piece of entertainment, I can tell you that much. Particularly not in this day and age, oh God help me. And indeed, one of the very few complaints I actually have about Edgerunners is that it was actually a little bit too short. It could have used another episode or two to really invest you into the world and the group of characters that it introduced you to. And misunderstand me correctly here, Edgerunners already does an exceptional job of just that, of pulling you into the world, of introducing you to these characters and building a relationship with them. Hell, I feel I have a closer connection to these characters after knowing them for no more than an hour or two than I have with any character in the Rings of Power, or the House of Dragon, or any other recent entertainment entry. But just a little bit more, just a pinch more, particularly a little bit more of Lucy as presented in episode 2 would have been just perfect. And Lucy. This might be one of my favorite characters in recent memory. She does grow a little bit more bland as the show goes on, but let me actually back up a step here and say that I have a very high tolerance for Studio Trigger. I know some people do not, and I happily admit Studio Trigger does have their story, which they kinda keep retelling rather frequently. In fact, if you've watched a fair few of their other anime entries, you're probably gonna figure out where this story is going by episode 2 or 3 or so. And I have. And yet, despite guessing the ending correctly, I may add as well, on episode 2, I still enjoyed the hell out of this show, and I am not going to be spoiling anything. I will happily spoil you on bad shows because frankly they are not worth your time, but Edgerunners genuinely is, and it is another example that Netflix can make damn fine entertainment when they just bloody want to. In fact, you know what one of my other main complaints about Edgerunners is? It is that it makes me hate the game even more. You might think it'd be the opposite, because Edgerunner has constant little winks and nods here and there to the game. Little scenes, little encounters that seem reminiscent of it, even straight up copying enemy types or missions or locations. And yet all it does is remind me of what the game could have been and what it absolutely was not. Lucy is the character that Keanu Reeves' Johnny Silverhand should have been. Lucy is the character that drags the MC, in this case David Martinez, into the world of Cyberpunk, who immerses him in it and teaches him all of the lessons and, well, the framings for it. It is a dark world. It is an unforgiving world. She is his savior. She is his nemesis. She is the reason why he ends up the way he does. And most importantly of all, she is the character that makes it so that even if David knew where his journey would end, he would still choose to go on it. Johnny Silverhand, however, is little more than a glorified game over screen. He is not a motivation. In fact, he is the main character. He turns you, the player, into a 2-bit side character in your own story. I hate Johnny Silverhand with a vehement passion. And it's not just Lucy. It is Maine. It is Dorio, it is Kiwi, it is Pillar, it is Rebecca. All of the characters you are introduced to over the course of the story feel solid. They are interesting. They build a relationship with the main character, David, that feels genuinely wholesome in its own ridiculous way in this universe of unabashed blood and horror and shit. Again, my only complaint is that I wish there was more of it. Considering the skill with which it was presented, I think that a bit more depth might have made it even better. But at the same time, I can also see the reverse argument in that, well, if you are a person like me who kinda sees the studio trigger coming, brevity might indeed actually be the soul of wit in this case. But compare this to your supposed best friend from the Cyberpunk game. I don't even remember his name. I remember he was the tutorial character. I remember following behind him for a short segment as he showed me how to take out guards and sneak, or not if I so chose, and then he talked to me once on a bike, and then next mission, he was dead. That was my extent. Oh, hold on. I forgot the best part. The flashback of all of the cool interactions I could have had with them if the game had actually let me play it. Oh, heavens. And the worst part, the genuinely worst part, is that in competitive time, you probably don't spend all that much more time with a lot of the characters in Edgerunner than you do your long-forgotten sidekick from Cyberpunk 2077. But it is all about the quality of that interaction and the depth of character conveyed to you over the course of it. And this is vital in games. You could argue that, okay, this was an anime, it's a very different medium, and of course it is telling a very different story that might not work in the game format. Entirely reasonable to assume. However, I have long argued that the future of gaming, and particularly RPGs, etc., needs to be companion characters. Because we have seen every story, we have fought every enemy, we have gone to space, we have fought dragons, we have fought aliens, we have fought Nazis, we've saved the world from government conspiracies, from invasions, from everything. Every plotline has been run 16 times over at this point. But it is always the main character doing it, and very little else. What you need is an actual living world. Not in the sandboxy, retarded aspect, where you raise a flag on a hill and suddenly the rebels move into an encampment or something, which changes nothing but the color on your mini-map. No, a breathing world as in characters that live around you, that have their own agendas, their own lives, their own interests that you interact with. They cannot be, however, the main character, overtly so. Not without a very good reason, at least, because that was the mistake of Johnny Silverhand. Johnny Silverhand literally exists to replace you, the player, in the story. He renders you into an irrelevancy. And he doesn't make you feel good about it either. Which might sound paradoxical. How could you possibly feel good about becoming irrelevant, about dying to further Johnny Silverhand's story? Well, there's the thing. There is absolutely a way to do this. There is absolutely a way to make this feel not like you're being replaced or shoved out of your own goddamn story, but to make this your story. To make it a heroic sacrifice, to make it something you do for the character that you have built a deep relationship with. Now, the key here is the character must be worthy of it. The character must be so good, so interesting, so deep, and so personally captivating to you that you feel it is a worthwhile story to sacrifice yourself for them. And Cyberpunk 2077 fails at this on a next to unbelievable level, as again, Johnny Silverhand is just an enormous asshole with very few, if any, actually redeeming qualities. But I could harp on about the multitude of failings of Cyberpunk 2077's story for a very long time. So, instead, let me wrap it up with a few things here. So, Edgerunners. The story is excellent. I genuinely adored it. Again, could be a pinch longer, but very good. Visually, it is excellent. Now, it is Studio Trigger, so do expect some stylistic choices, particularly in regards with coloring here, but it is supposed to be Night City, so a degree of neon is very acceptable and thematically correct, I would say. When it comes to, see, this is one of those little Netflix things. If you, as I am, an enormous weeb who would rather castrate yourself with a king crab than watch the dubbed version, you might run into some problems with the subtitles. As always, the Japanese version is excellently voice acted because that is something Japan absolutely knows how to do. But the subs. I got a hold of 4 different subtitles on the version that I managed to acquire. Not a single one of them was actually accurate. Now, these days I don't really need subs anymore for anything beyond jargon, so I eventually just ended up turning them off. But some of the subs weren't merely just bad, as in they missed out on subtext or details or anything like that, but it felt like they were subbing a different movie entirely. Like, the character would say 3 words in Japanese, and in the English subtitles, they would go on a lengthy-ass rant. Yeah, I'm presuming that the dubbed version and the Japanese version, in terms of text and verbiage, vary quite drastically. And finally, music and audio design. It is, again, just simply really solid. The voice acting in the Japanese version that I watched is excellent. Can't comment as to the English one, because if I have the option, I always take the Japanese one. Although I did recently watch some Western animations as well, and I will say, Dragon's Blood and Arcane has convinced me that there might be some hope for the Western voice acting market as well. Not that I'm going to rely on it, but hey, it's an idea. In conclusion, as far as I'm concerned, Cyberpunk Edgerunners is a damn fine piece of media, and I heartily recommend it. Which is also why I'm going to keep this video nice and short so as to not give out any spoilers, because especially if you're a Studio Trigger virgin, this will be a very nice ride, and even for veterans, I think you'll be able to find something to enjoy here. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for listening, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.